We made it through another week and another day without Xander Bogaerts. Welcome to the Locked On Red Sox podcast. Thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. That's at BetOnline, where the game starts. And today's episode, I'm very excited to bring to you. We are going to welcome Javi, the host of Locked On Padres, to this show. Just going to chat, obviously, about the Xander Bogaerts deal. He did sign an 11-year deal with the San Diego Padres. So we're going to talk about kind of what that means for the Padres infield, what's Bogart's role going to be, just the excitement in San Diego and everything in between. So let's welcome Javi to the show.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, Javi Reyes, Locked On Padres host, and maybe some Red Sox enemies now at this point, now that Xander Bogaerts has agreed to an 11-year deal with San Diego. Honestly, of course, it's the Padres. They dish out money to absolutely everyone. I think it's $900 million they have tied up in Machado, Tatis, and now Bogaerts. I think that's what it was. But I was not expecting the Padres because Scott Boras made it seem like Xander Bogaerts isn't switching positions, so the Padres are out. That's how I read that. And then to see last night the Padres just swoop in and get it done for 11 years, 280. Holy smokes.
Yeah. It's wild. And we really just jumped right into it. My gosh. What's up, everybody?
Well, let's, tell us about you. Like, I'm like, no, we got to talk about Bogaerts.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the people want to hear. I understand. But really quickly, everybody, thank you for listening. Just for all the folks, the kind voice you're hearing is Lauren Weiland. Hopefully I said that last name correctly. I probably should have asked that before we recorded.
It's Willand, but it's all right.
Willand. Okay, Willand. And Javi Reyes is my not so pleasant voice because I'm a little sick right now. So everybody keep that in mind. Locked On Red Sox, Locked On Padres, man. I think that it's so. I will say one thing I have been enjoyed in general about free agency so far is I've always hated when these highly desirable free agents somehow sign like 2 weeks before spring training. Like why can't we figure this out? There's so many different areas that Major League Baseball seems so behind, and that was just one of them. And with my team, with Manny Machado, was like he's kind of like the poster boy for that. Where I'm not blaming necessarily either side. It was just I am literally about done with my sophomore year in college before this guy finally signed his contract. You know what I mean? Like it was just actually kind of maddening. Of course, it was great. He signs with the Padres, but it still can be frustrating. And there's been all these deals, and we get this one last night at like 11:35, 11:45. I get the passing notification, and I, of course, being a human being, decide to go to the bathroom for 2 minutes. And sometimes when I know when it's a quick break, maybe when I'm taking out the trash or something like that, I leave my phone behind because I don't want to be glued to the thing. It's a tiny concession that I make.
It is. I get that.
And I kind of like the thrill of leaving your phone for a little bit and then checking it again, always hoping, something happens.
That is an anxiety-ridden game.
And I check my phone. I have 8 Twitter notifications.
Oh, no.
I have 54 text messages. And then I have like 4 Snapchats, like every app you could think of. Heck, even Be Real probably got involved on this. And my initial reaction was, this was incredible because the Padres this is just what they've been doing. And in a state where Major League Baseball seems to find itself with more teams that are just not seemingly all in on competing. And one of the things that stinks is they use the excuse of making the playoffs a couple times as a reason to kick the can down the road, right? And it's kind of crazy that the Red Sox are one of those teams, right? We usually have those pillars. You have the Yankees, you have the Dodgers, you have the Red Sox that they're always going to go for a World Series, huge organizations, blockbuster, pillars of the sport. And instead, the Red Sox are just not doing that. I mean, this has been a thing for ever since Chaim Bloom, the GM of the Red Sox, kind of came on board. Meanwhile, AJ Preller, ever since he came on board, even if it didn't work, I'm talking the trade for Will Myers that ended up giving away a guy named Trey Turner. I'm talking about the Matt Kemp trade, the Justin Upton trade, the Craig Kimbrell trade. But they keep going at it. And then they signed Eric Hosmer, which didn't work. But then they keep going back at it. And I think that for me, this signing is one that, from a baseball perspective, I have a lot of thoughts on. I don't think it's a super necessarily the best signing in the world. It does worry me a little bit. And we're going to talk about Xander more in depth a little bit later and what it's like for him being on your team as long as he was. But from just a fan perspective, I think it's really important to note that the Padres never did this. You know what I mean? I think it was John Heyman on MLB Network last night was like, this is a team that couldn't re-sign Chase Headley at one point. Like that was like their best, literally like their best players since like Adrian Gonzalez and heck, some of their other players, right? Ken Caminiti, and they couldn't re-sign him. And now they're like, yeah, why not? Xander Bogaerts, sure, come to. We already have two shortstops. Who cares? We like this guy. And I think that's the important perspective. Some of these other teams that have always spent money might be like, we were talking a little bit before off air, like, I mean, 11 years is a long time. I wouldn't even do that for a younger player. But for the Padres, it's like, it's just so refreshing to see a change in attitude, a change in organizational structure that they don't really care about that. So as far as I'm concerned, just from the fun perspective of being able to experience what it's like, even if it stinks down the road, is really just fantastic. And it feels like Xander Bogaerts is a great player to take that chance on.
He is. He is. He's a five-time Silver Slugger. And people will argue the analytics of him. They'll say, "Oh, there's better defensive shortstops out there." Of course there are. Of course there are. There's always going to be someone better at every single position. Now, 11 years for a 30-year-old. I mean, 30 isn't old by any means, but in baseball terms, it's almost retirement age. So you look at this contract for a 30-year-old, but at the end of the day, you're getting a clubhouse leader. You're getting someone who was so respected in the Red Sox organization, among the fans, about Alex Cora, the players. Of course, the players just loved him. He's been with the team since 2013, helped them to 2 World Series. So all around, it's just a really good person, a really good player. And he also got his money. Good for him. Like, I would absolutely go for $280 million too. I could absolutely do that for 11 years. But you said something about the deal that maybe you're like not the best deal. Is it the 11 years? Is it the money? Is it the log jam?
It's definitely the log jam for me is kind of more of a question of, what, let's just acquire the talent first and figure it out later. I'm usually a pro of that. I feel like just in every sport that usually is a good thing if you kind of are able to just be like, let's just gather talent and then we'll figure that part out later. Especially in baseball where, I mean, you can figure it out. I know that some people are saying he may play second base, right? So that might be a thing. I don't know if he's really spent a lot of time there, but that could be interesting because the Padres do have Ha-Seong Kim, who's been a really great defensive shortstop. But for me, that's not it. For me, it's 11 years. I just think in general, baseball, it is always horrifying to give someone a long contract, especially after 30. And I don't care who it is. I really don't. And don't get me wrong. I talked about this on my show, but Xander Bogaerts, one of the more consistent players in baseball, arguably the most consistent in terms of health, in terms of his F-WAR, in terms of what he does in playoffs and stuff. He always seems to come up big. But even still, I mean, it's just it gets you nervous, right? Because when he's 37 or 38, is this a guy who's going to look like how we all look when we watch, Miguel Cabrera sometimes and Albert Pujols certainly, where you're like, oh my, it's sad, you know what I mean? But the Padres clearly don't care about that right now. Instead, their thing is, no, we just want the talent, and I'm all for that. I really, Lauren, I really am. I'm a fan of signing good players. That's my take of the podcast.
Me too. I wish the Red Sox would do it more. I really wish they would. And one thing you said, Bogaerts, in terms of his health and being consistently healthy. And last year he was dealing with a wrist injury that he suffered in May, and he was still putting up numbers. Like, yes, they were down. Yes, it was a quote unquote down year. It was a down year for everyone last year. So it seemed like on the Red Sox, but he was still battling through that injury like it was nothing. He was still making the plays at short. He was still getting on base. He was still trying to give the Red Sox a chance to win. But you're just getting a guy who loves to play baseball. And I don't want to say that's rare, but someone who just genuinely loves the game and would just put their body on the line, you're going to get that in Bogaerts. And I do hope he thrives in San Diego. San Diego has perfect weather, has Don Orsillo, and it does have a very talented team. I just maybe there's some, I mean, you have Fernando Tatis who's got his own issues off the field, but if this team can stay healthy, this looks like a dangerous team. And then you add in Bogaerts and it just makes them that much better.
Yeah. And I mean, I have to ask, was the Don Orsillo tweet that make you very emotional? I
Oh
thought it was
man,
very cute.
it was so cute. And I was just like, they're back together again.
I know, right?
I love Don Orsillo so much. I love that he landed on his feet so quickly. So, but yeah, that was just another, kick in the pants when you're scrolling through Twitter and you're seeing all these reports about the deal and just tweet after tweet where you're like, well, maybe, Passan's, never wrong. But maybe it was this one time where you're like, okay, let's see. Like everyone starts coming in, the Boston Globe writers start coming in, and I'm like, oh no, no, this is happening. My husband came in, he's like, hey, Bogaerts, he signed, and I'm like, yeah. I was just like, I knew it was bad when that's how he started it. So I was like, oh geez, like this is, and you see the Don tweet, and it's like, man, Red Sox fans are in their feelings right now, and they still are. I went on Twitter just before we got on here, and I'm like, woo. I think they're going to be mad for a long time, especially, Mookie just got traded 3 years ago. John Lester and Rafael Devers needs an extension. So now it's just like they are mad. They are in their feelings, and absolutely every single right to, because clearly we loved Xander Bogaerts here.
Absolutely. I think that one of the things that's happened is, this Chaim Bloom fellow that is running the Red Sox. I don't know. People need to go look this up because it's one of the more, I think it was in the Globe, if I'm not mistaken, the Boston Globe, that is, of this really odd, I don't know, like just paragraphs of talking about Chaim Bloom sitting on a plane and like staring at his foot. It was like eerie. It was like, what is going on here? Is this like a Paul Thomas Anderson movie going on right now? Like, I was very confused. It's one of the more odd, like, kind of things I've read about a GM since the Jeff Bridrich thing from The Athletic from a couple years ago, where that one was more like sources and talking about how that guy probably got his position through other means and he probably wasn't qualified at all. Well, Chaim Bloom, I'm not trying to, maybe he's a great baseball mind and maybe the no, he's not. But, I will say that at least it's like, all right, he's had some success with Tampa and whatnot. Well, Bridrich was just like, oh, I wonder why you're the GM of the team. Maybe it has to do with the owner and stuff like that. But with Chaim Bloom, you look at this and say, why my perspective on the Red Sox has always been, how did they convince people that they should be like the Rays? You know what I mean? Like, I don't, and that's not a good state for the sport to be in, where these really, really wealthy companies / teams are like, yeah, we need to operate like the Rays. You know what I mean? It's like, that's not, no, like the Rays do that because they don't have the same amount of resources. It's just bizarre. And I think that, the Red Sox, another thing that came out was that, yeah, it wasn't like the Padres definitely paid a lot, but the Red Sox were apparently not even the same price range as multiple other mystery teams. Maybe it was San Francisco, maybe it was, I don't know, the Dodgers or whatever, like, but they just weren't even in the same atmosphere. What is it kind of like for you to, I don't know, just follow the fact that apparently the team is a big fan of giving up some of their best players to the NL West?
It's just so bizarre. And the Mookie thing, I said, like, I'm always willing to give Chaim Bloom a pass on that. That was happening no matter who was in charge, no matter who was in Chaim Bloom's seat. We knew the Mookie trade was coming. And we also got assets for Mookie Betts. Are they ever going to be all-star caliber? Probably not. But they didn't let him walk for nothing like they did with Bogaerts. And exactly like you said, they're operating like the Rays. This is not a team that can operate like the Rays. This is a franchise that's used to winning. And that's like a first world problem thing, right? Like, oh no, like they haven't made the playoffs and World Series. There's been no World Series since 2018. Oh no, the horror. Like, I get it. It's really like infuriating to see this go down time and time again and not spend the money, but you'll dish out 90 mil to Yoshida, who may or may not even work out coming over from Japan. Who knows if that talent will translate to MLB levels? You have the contract to Trevor Story where you're like, was this the plan the entire time where you knew you weren't going to match any offer because they had a 4-year, $90 million offer to Bogaerts before the season started, which is just banana land. I don't understand how they even thought that was a fair or competitive type of offer, but it's unfortunately something Red Sox fans are just used to. And it doesn't get any easier. It just gets more maddening because you'll sit back and be like, maybe they'll learn from XYZ. Maybe they'll learn from this person. And they just don't. It gets worse. It gets worse every time it happens. And to let someone go who's, a homegrown talent, and this isn't a homegrown mediocre guy. This isn't someone that they got through in their system. This isn't somebody who's just like, let's try to trade him, get maybe a draft pick or two. This is a guy who's established a very good career. He's got awards, accolades to his name. He's World Series champion. I mean, people here call him the captain of the Red Sox, and he was never given the C. They haven't had a captain since Veritek, but he was that leader and that captain, and everyone spoke highly of him. So you almost thought this is a lock to bring him back, and things just started getting more pessimistic. And the High and Bloom article in the Globe, I genuinely think that he knew that they needed to bring him back, that they needed to get Bogaerts back on this Red Sox team, because I'm sure High and Bloom's a very smart guy. I think he knows he's on thin ice with Red Sox fans, or maybe he's off that thin ice now and just in the water. But when you see something like that, I genuinely believe that he thought it was going their way and that they were going to bring him back. And he's just staring at his phone like, this is the biggest fail of my career right now. And I don't know how I'm going to face the music. I don't know what's next. Like, to me, I read that as he has no idea what to do now. And that's not a good feeling to have as a Red Sox fan, someone who covers this team, and then someone who talks about this team Monday through Friday. It is,
Yeah. Meanwhile, AJ Preller apparently doesn't sleep no matter what happens. And he's just like, yeah, we may have traded for another Red Sox player, Ted Williams reincarnated, but I also want to do Hader. I'm also thinking of maybe bringing in Carlos Correa. Oh, we missed out on Aaron Judge and Trey Turner. No problem. Let's just go after Xander Bogaerts.
Yep.
There's a very next man up vibe to the Padres. And it's funny because I'm the idiot who keeps being like, let's get Michael Conforto, right? Like, let's get these depth pieces. Like, clearly they don't listen to me, right? Like, absolutely. That's one thing I've learned with the Padres. And, as you alluded to, just kind of this homegrown talent. Like, I still remember, this is so nerdy and dumb. I still remember, like, in high school, like my sophomore, junior year, I think, in high school, when he was like this sleeper in fantasy baseball drafts, right? And people forget. I mean, if you want to get nerdy about it, he hasn't had an F4 lower than 3.1 in his whole career, aside from the rookie season and aside from the truncated 2020 season. And even in 2020, he was excellent in the short sample size, even if the totality wasn't greater. It's just remarkable. And this is a guy who, I think I remember my one friend was like, this is our Jeter. Like, he gets called up at 20 and all these things. He's the shortstop. He's kind of got a classy vibe to him and whatnot. Can you talk about just like, let's talk about the positivity, I guess, of Xander Bogaerts, like some favorite moments and just what it was like watching him. Do you think that this is the type of player who, I think the way the Padres hand out 11-year contract, they are, at least I hope this is what they're thinking, is they think this is the type of player that can be a Max Scherzer of batters. And in other words, a guy who's actually going to age quite well, that at the worst, he's going to be what I said, like a 3-WAR player at his worst, because he's just a pure, his first like season, like he was great, right? Like in his first like non-rookie season, he was great. Like he knows how to hit the ball well, even if not always for home runs. What do you think? Like, what was like kind of the stuff about Xander Bogaerts? Just go off, man. Tell me the good stuff about this signing.
I mean, the good stuff is you're going to get a consistent offensive bat. You're going to get the defense, and you're going to get somebody who wants to just be the guy for the team, but not like in the spotlight. He's kind of he's humble, he's reserved, and he wants to win. He's a very, very competitive guy. I always worry about 11 years. I would have worried about 8 years because just 30. He's a walking miracle at age 30 in MLB. And but he takes very good care of himself. He's very into his workout routine, his health, and just his lifestyle is very, very healthy. So hopefully, that outside of hopefully there's no freak injuries or anything like that. But baseball is weird. You never know what can happen. But I don't see him, being some fragile player. You do have a sturdy workhorse, I think is a good way to describe him. But fans are going to love him. He loves, he loves the fans. And I think he'll take very well to the Padres fans. I think he'll love Petco Park. I've been there one time, no, twice. I've been there twice. Beautiful park. And I think he's just going to love it there. I mean, how can you complain about San Diego weather too? But you're just getting a guy who just loves the game of baseball, who lives and breathes and dies baseball, and who's just a very, very competitive guy. He's going to do what it takes to win. He's not always the most vocal, but he is a leader. And sometimes with a team like the Padres, who do have leaders on there already, but someone like Bogaerts coming in there and who's more of the quiet leader might be a nice change for them. It might be a good change for them. And this is someone who has World Series experience. So you're not bringing him in to just get knocked out of the NLDS, get knocked out of the wild card. You are there to knock out Mookie and the Dodgers and keep going and then beat the Astros in the World Series because the Red Sox won't make it. But Padres fans have a lot to look forward to. Yes, the 11 years, that's daunting, but this is a guy. He's also not going to hop on a motorcycle and break his wrist, or a bicycle like Chris Sale did and break his wrist. Hopefully he doesn't do steroids. Hopefully, I don't think he would, but I've been shocked before, but I don't think that would be the case. But overall, just a good clubhouse guy too. Like he knows how to handle the media, which I think is, I mean, it shouldn't be something that people are like, oh, they couldn't stand the heat in the Boston media, the New York media, but he knows how to handle the worst of the worst, the best of the best. So you're not going to get some, storm out. And if you do, it's going to be warranted, but I don't see that happening either. Just someone who I can't say enough good things about Xander. Like he's just someone you want on your team. Someone, that Alex Cora, David Ortiz was saying, like, these are the people you build your team around. I don't think the Padres need to do any building by any means, but this is someone, that also can entice young players, or maybe you have at the trade deadline, you're like, oh, we have Xander. Like that is a marketing point because he is somebody that people want to play for and people want to play with. So overall, just a very, very good signing for the Dodgers, person-wise. And I hope that contract works out. I really, really do. You see Mookie already dealing with injuries in his big contract with the Dodgers. But at the end of the day, if it works out, good for the Dodgers, good for Xander. I am very jealous that he's going to be in a Padres uniform for the rest of his career. And somebody had said this, threw me into a spiral. They're like, after his contract is done, if he plays the entire thing with the Padres, he'll have spent more time with the Padres than the Red Sox. And I'm like, okay, I'm a puddle.
Oh, no.
All done.
Oh my gosh, you won't even be remembered that way. It's gonna be like Shaq when he left the Magic. Oh my gosh.
And when he goes into the Hall of Fame, he's gonna wear a Padres hat, isn't he?
Right? Oh my gosh.
I think, the way he also handles the media, I think he's very truthful. I don't think he's going to go and bash the Red Sox in his introductory press conference, but I do think there will be not even subtle digs because I think he likes Alex Cora a lot and does like the actual, the players on the team. But I think there will be some body language and some maybe snippets to look out for where you're just like, oh yeah, the Red Sox really messed up in letting this guy just walk on over to the West Coast again.
And it really does feel like, and I mean, I've seen everybody, right? I've seen everybody. And Padres folks, they're just enjoying it. Probably a little bit too much, but they're enjoying the tears. I mean, I personally have been hydrated by the Dodger fan tears for months now. I don't need the Red Sox fan tears, despite my hatred of Boston, Boston sports specifically. I have some friends there, obviously, but
he's a hater.
Yeah, I'm a hater. That's right. But it's just, it's very funny. Like I'm getting people are sending me Bill Simmons tweets, and you're like, just him being like, hey, we can afford another NFL team or whatever in 8 years or whatever he tweeted about. And just all these people. My favorite, I talked about this on my show, is I am in a group chat where people were so sure. They're like, here, Boston Strong tweeted this, and then this reporter tweeted this, sending every single crumb in the group chat the entire day that they're getting Xander Bogaerts. And for it to end up being on the Padres, that alone almost makes the signing worth it for me. I live for it, Lauren. It was so good.
It was great. You.
I mean, you guys got the Celtics right now. They're going to win the title.
And
so
the Bruins.
Yeah, and the Bruins and whatnot. And speaking of other good stuff, and I imagine we're going to talk a little bit more about Xander and just future things. I want to talk to you about something else that's very good. You might be familiar with it. Have you ever heard of Built Bar?
Oh, talk to me. I love Built Bar.
Built Bar is really one of the great delicacies, I think, in the culinary world. And the reason for that is it's healthy for you and it's good. And that's a rare combination. It's actually unfair. Look, if there's an almighty after death, the first thing I'm asking is like, why couldn't good food also be healthy for you? It seems pretty unfair. You know what I mean? Like, why is wheat not good for you if you have too much of it, right? But they figured it out over at Built Bar, man. And they've got some really cool flavors. They've got this cookie dough topper. They've got a coconut brownie bar. They've got coconut brownie toppers. They've got all these cool things. You know what I mean? I'm personally a fan of the cherry barcia flavor. Love that one. Very yummy. My mom's favorite as well. And if you guys think I'm kidding, by the way, covered in 100% chocolate, soft and easy to chew. Each bar, 17 grams of protein, and shockingly, almost as shocking as this Xander Bogaerts,
almost
low sugar and calories, only 130 calories. It's pretty wild. Lauren, do you have a favorite flavor or any favorite?
It is cookie dough. Cookie dough is elite.
Cookie dough is very good. There's a coconut brownie chunk / cookie dough chunk. I forgot what it's called. They have that one as well. You guys should go check it out. Seriously, Built Bar has been a Locked On, like our group chat in Locked On. People like, no. You have to understand. We message every time when we put in our own orders. Every time they come in, like we're like little kids posting like our Christmas presents. Yep. That's what it's like when Built Bars come in, because they're soft and chewy and everything that I just told you. But even more than that, because you guys listen to this pod, I got a little deal for you. You can get 15% off your orders right now. And I say orders plural because you'll definitely be getting more than one, using the code LOCKEDON15 at built.com. Ladies and gentlemen, the best protein bars, the best snack ever conceived by humankind, dare I say. Built Bars. Go check them out. Wow, I was really excited for the talk about Built Bars. That was fun.
How can you not get excited about Built Bars, though? Love Built Bars.
I know. I have to ask you now about the Red Sox, I guess, just going forward. Like, in fairness to them, I already talked about how 11 years is a lot. I think that is a huge contract. And from that perspective, yes, I don't think that it's bad that they missed out on him. What is bad is what we alluded to before, which is that, oh no, you could have had him for like 160 million, like, because they were talking about the Altuve contract and some of these. Oh no, because that's bad, because that's like, oh my gosh, you weren't even willing to do that. This isn't a one hit, wonder. This isn't like when Kirk Cousins had that first good year. Right. I don't know why I did a football cross reference, but
you like that?
Yeah, I do. And it's crazy that this happened with both the Yankees and Red Sox. The Yankees ended up finally copping up and paying Aaron Judge, obviously, as people have been following the news. Then the Red Sox didn't. I'm wondering, in a vacuum, though, they did get Yoshida, who now some people are saying they overpaid for, which I don't want to spend time on that. That's more your alley. But Rafael Devers, right? Like, that's another question now. Is he going to get extended? What are they going to offer him? 8 years, 240, right? Like, I don't know what's going to happen. Or do you think that the offseason is done for the Red Sox?
No, I think they need way too much help. Starting pitching, the bullpen, I will give them credit where credit is due. They did. Mm-hmm. They've upgraded the bullpen right now, and I like that. Yoshida is fine. I worry about the production at MLB level. You just don't know. It's not a guarantee that he'll be as good as he was in Japan. Hopefully he is, because there'll be a lot of angry Red Sox fans. But yeah, this isn't.
That sucks. He's going to be the guy that was signed instead of Xander Bogaerts, unfairly tagged that way.
Yes, by the way. He absolutely will, because he likely, I'm assuming, will get the biggest contract of this offseason, and people will understandably lose their minds about that. But especially, you mentioned it, that the Red Sox could have had him for something similar to Altuve had they just gotten this done before spring training last year. Had they just talked to Bogaerts, talked to Scott Boras, and got it done. And it should have never gotten to this point. And that's what's really infuriating a lot of Red Sox fans is that this should have been avoided and it should have been done before the last season started. And then now everyone is Devers. Are they going to pay him? And I said this on my show. I said if they know for a fact in their heads that they're not going to sign him, or they know, or they want the same negotiations to happen like how it did with Bogaerts, trade him. Do not just let him walk away. Do not string him along.
Yeah.
Do not do the same thing, especially a year after losing Bogaerts. Like if you want him part of your team long term, which you say you do, then just get it out of the way, because you're not a better team right now after losing Bogaerts. Because now who do you put at short? Who do you put, if you move Story over, who do you put at second? And then your outfield is worse. Your outfield was very good with Kike Hernandez, and it's much worse with him without him. We saw that last year when he was dealing with a hematoma in his hip. So a lot of questions and a lot of pessimism around this Red Sox team and around Devers, because it's people I think are expecting the Red Sox to do the same thing to Devers that they did to Bogaerts, that they did to Lester, that they did insert name here. So it's not a fun time to be a Red Sox fan, because everyone's angry. Fans that are, usually get along with one another are fighting with each other on the internet. Like the emotions, the tension, it is high. And people are just very, very unhappy. Not a lot of faith in this team, even though the bullpen is better, but your infield just got worse. Your offense just got worse, because what is the plan B? We've been told there is plan B. We've been told there's internal options. That's not good enough for trying to be a competitive team in 2023, especially when the teams around you in your division, your rival, is getting better. And your rival is paying the one guy that nearly got away. And they're like, no, we'll just dish out the money to him, because they wanted him there. They knew that their team was worse without Aaron Judge. And the Yankees opened up their checkbook, and the Red Sox were like, would you like a breadcrumb?
Yeah.
Like, it's awful.
Exactly. And it's a shame, because I really think that, and we've said this a lot, but the points you made out is, this is a guy who debuted when he was 20 years old. Yeah. This is not a guy who just came out onto the scene. And even if he just came, like even a Tatis, for example, right? I'll bring him up for a second. He bursts onto the scene and gets paid almost immediately. Right. That's like, all right, like I was thrilled with it, but it's not like the Padres fans, in my opinion, if he was to be not extended, that wouldn't be rage inducing. It would be like, oh, come on, we really want this guy. But in fairness, it's been a year and a half, right? Xander Bogaerts has been there for so long. And like I said, with the number 2 and the Jeter and the way he treats media and stuff. And I imagine you saw there was a tweet out there from a Michael Dyer bringing up Chaim Bloom inherited 27-year-old Mookie, 27-year-old Bogaerts, 25-year-old Benintendi, and 23-year-old Devers. Devers is not extended. He's still there. And I'm not going to do as much as, because Lawrence is very nice. I don't want to do this. If you were if you were some of the other Boston folk I know, I would name the players that Chaim Bloom has turned this into.
Oh, no.
I do got Alex Verdugo's all right, I will say. But the rest of them,
yeah, he's been serviceable.
He's a solid player that many major league teams would like. The problem is who you gave up for him, I think, is the problem.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
I think that's the
problem.
Yes.
Man,
I mean, and I think that this is a reminder that it's just everyone likes to. I don't know if you've noticed this. This has been something I've been kind of toying with lately. Is that baseball media and analysis? They love hyping up these teams that have like a clean roster, right? No albatross contracts, no like a lot of prospects, right? People love praising Milwaukee. They love praising Tampa and Cleveland and teams like that, right? And they're really clean and they don't make dumb moves for the most part. But I'm always looking at those teams and saying, but where's the championship? You know what I mean? And it's this kick the can down the road mentality. And then everyone likes to make fun of, I'm looking at MLB Network and I see, my boy, Mad Dog Russo, saying, I don't like this contract. It's an average player. I actually don't mind Russo. I think he's very entertaining. But they love to like attack these teams that probably overpaid. My thing is, who cares? Because the downside is what you're seeing with the Red Sox and what you saw with the Oakland A's, right? The Oakland A's traded Olsen and who the heck was it? Matt Chapman and Now finally they're deciding that they want a lot for Sean Murphy, right? But they've traded all of their best players. They traded Bassett, they trade Frankie Montas, and it seems like they didn't get a lot for all these players.
Right.
And the Red Sox, it seems the same thing. Only team that I can think of lately that's been rebuilding. Actually, I think Reds have done a decent job with the prospects they've acquired, but I just think people don't talk enough. The retooling thing is also something we need to bring up. You know what I mean? The prospect returns sometimes don't match up. Sometimes you're like, you know what? Even if it was only 5 years of this 11 that Bogaerts plays at an elite level, you look back and you're like, I still would have preferred that. And I think oftentimes people instead bring up, look at the Nationals. They're paying Patrick Corbin too much. Yeah, well, Patrick Corbin helped them win a World Series. So as far as I'm concerned, that's still something. And maybe if you're a fan who likes to just be competitive and never win, I mean, I think that's silly. But if you genuinely do enjoy that, go off, enjoy your life. But that's kind of something that I've noticed in baseball, and I think that the Padres are the opposite of that. And they're saying, nah, man, like you got to try and go for this, and we'll worry about it later. Not to mention, I think that for Padres fans, and this has been talked about already, is that a nice, interesting wrinkle into, how are the Padres affording this and why they do this. Manny Machado does have a player option this next year, and I think it is very likely that he exercises that. I imagine he's going to be inclined to stay with the Padres. He seems to love it there, seems to love the team. They love him. The fans adore Manny Machado here. That man could say anything, and they love him. Almost anything, and they love him, right?
Red Sox fans do not feel the same way.
Oh, I believe me. We don't have to get into that. Because I got beef with you all over that on certain aspects of the Manny thing. But it's just funny because it's like, oh, that's why they might be doing this. They're doing that and saying, all right, if he does leave, we'll have Xander, and then if we want to, we can extend Juan Soto, which is this is so fun. This is great. I for one, Lauren, am enjoying this. This is great. I literally forgot Juan Soto was on the team last night. I'm not kidding. I was like, yeah, I guess they moved Tatis to right field or whatever. And I was like, oh, wait, we have the Ted Williams guy. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah. And, you talk about the prospects and the younger players that get involved in these kinds of trades and how they don't always match up. And you definitely could say that about Mookie, because you look at what they brought over, and then you have Franchi Cordero, who came from Benintendi, and it's like, oh, Jesus, like, here we go. Like, this is just going to be ugly. But the Red Sox have a really good farm system. And we saw a lot of them last year because injuries and can't stay healthy, but they weren't ready. And I'm like, great, now they're going to destroy their careers. And oh my God, this is going to have to rebuild the farm system as we're rebuilding the major league team. But I don't know. I mean, and then you look at everything else that just should not have happened. And it's with this good farm system, we should be excited, and we're still not. And there's just no plan B. Like, you don't think Machado's going to opt out or opt out of his deal. And that's good. That's good for the Padres if they don't, because like, he's loved over there. He seems to enjoy playing over there. He's obviously very good at his position. Mm-hmm. And it just, again, it's like, oh, players want to be there because they care about, they're investing in players around them to make this team better. And I still think Boston is a desirable place to play. But when you see the Padres out there spending money, you see the Dodgers spending money, you see the Yankees spending money, because they want to win. They want to make their team better. And the Yankees,
destination.
Yes. And the Yankees, they have so many postseason woes that they just need to get that monkey off their back more than anything. And you don't do that without Aaron Judge. And maybe he stinks in the postseason, but he helps you get there. And you probably don't get there without him, or it's much more difficult to get there without him. And maybe that's the same with someone like Manny Machado. But, if he goes down, if he opts out, even if he gets injured, there's nice little like fill-ins there. And not people they have to pluck from AAA that will be good one day, but aren't quite ready yet, like the Red Sox had to do last year. And I'm just like, oh God, like what's it like? Because it wasn't that long ago that the Red Sox were like this, that they wanted to invest in their players. And I knew this when Chaim Bloom got hired. I was like, he is the complete opposite of Dave Dombrowski. Dave Dombrowski will do whatever he can to make that deal. We've seen it already this offseason. Yes,
go ask Philadelphia right now.
And he got Chris Sale here to the Red Sox. He just made Deal and Dave. They call him Deal and Dave for a reason.
Mhm.
And I was like, Chaim Bloom is very, very opposite. He loves prospects. He's going to build this team like the Rays. And we see that now that it's just not working. And maybe that's a good strategy for the Rays. It's not good for the Red Sox because now you have somebody, if Rafael Devers goes down injury, who do you have to back him up? Bobby Dahlbeck, great. He stinks too. Like, who do we have? And it's just, if you just invested in these players better, or if you paid your players better, maybe it wouldn't be this way. And I don't know if I'm just mad about Xander going to San Diego. I'm not mad at, good for him. I'm happy for you because you get a good player to watch for the next 11 years. But the Red Sox, they need to do something different. And I think they need an overhaul. And to bring back Theo. Where is Theo Epstein? Come back. Baby, come back. Because this team would look, I mean, you can say that about anyone, right? Like if Dave Dombrowski's here, it looks different. If Theo's here, it looks different. And the game's changed, but I don't think the way that Chaim Bloom thinks it's evolving is working for the Red Sox, because this is not a team that you can, like the Rays. If this was happening with the Padres, if this was like kind of the Padres situation, I don't think fans would be very happy about it.
No, not at all. And you bring up Dombrowski. I mean, I literally have a good friend of mine who was just cooking Dave Dombrowski. My thing was, you are so lightly just acting like the winning a championship is, yeah, I guess he won a championship. Whoa. That's
what
hard
do you mean
to
you
do,
guess?
and that counts. You know what I mean, right? And
right.
I think it is very important to bring up that, Peter Seidler and AJ Preller both deserve a lot of credit.
Yes.
I know some people have said Preller is not very good, that he's just lucky that the owner will give him money. I disagree with that, but also understand it because, yeah, he's made these big deals, but also like, some under the radar ones that end up becoming better later, like Tatis, like Joe Musgrove, players like that. But it's very important to not forget that ownership, I think, has a big part of this as well. And while Chaim Bloom hasn't been, he certainly isn't liked by Red Sox fans, it seems right now, that John Henry deserves criticism, I think. And I think you look at Peter Seidler, you're like, this guy's like, we're the only pro sports team here. The San Diego Aztecs college team, they lose in round 1 of March Madness every year. The Chargers left us. Let's try and seize this. And they go in and do that. While you look at the Red Sox, and one of the things, just to go on a tiny bit of a tangent, I could not stand about the documentary The Last Dance, who everybody probably watched with Michael Jordan and the Bulls, was how much flack they gave Jerry Krause. Number one, because ethically I thought it was whack that a guy who is no longer with us can't defend himself was taking the brunt of that. And number two was almost this idea that Jerry Reinsdorf is sitting there in the chair throughout that documentary being like, yeah, and Jerry just wanted his way. I'm like, you own the team, dude. You know what I mean? Like, if you really cared, I promise you, if you take a second off your yacht, that you could come in there and be like, all right, enough is enough, Jerry. Like, Michael, let's figure this out. Maybe we have to trade some. Let's just give him what he wants. I don't care. We literally we became the worlds because of this guy, right? I think that John Henry deserves a lot of criticism. And while it is funny and personally enjoyable to make fun of the Boston Globe article and Chaim Bloom, like I said, being lost in transition or whatever, like that is funny. But I think John Henry deserves a lot of criticism. And I am wondering what direction they head in, because certainly the Padres and the Red Sox, I did not ever think a day like this would come. It's so weird. I never thought this would happen, that you're outbidding the Red Sox when the Red Sox really
by a lot.
This guy by a lot too. So it's a bizarre world, man. It's a bizarre world.
It is. And it's John Henry does deserve criticism, and a lot of it is too. He's sending Chaim Bloom and Sam Kennedy, Brian O'Halloran out to face the media, to face the tough questions. And I guess when you have that authority and you're like, yeah, I own the team, I don't have to talk to the media. No, he doesn't owe anyone anything, but a little transparency would be nice. A little showing face would be nice. This is your team. You invest in a lot of other things. You bought the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are playing the Boston Bruins at Fenway Park in January. And it's just, fans want transparency. And we know this is a business at the end of the day. We know that. We're very aware that it comes down to business, but this is part of the business that didn't have to happen. And if John Henry was able to come out and just say something, even if it was a bunch of hogwash and just a prepared speech. I think in a way it would go a long way to fans. I still think he'd get torn apart and just absolutely crushed on Twitter, but
Hmm.
he hasn't spoken in 4 years. He's
Wow.
declined every request. He has not shown face. He didn't show up when Mookie was traded. Sends Chaim Bloom out there, who's like fresh in this position. And we see a lot of Sam Kennedy. We see a lot of Brian O'Halloran. These are not the people that fans want to see. They want to hear from John Henry, who's making these decisions. Who's up there owning the team, who sits there, and he's not just some assistant or executive. Like, he's the owner of the team, and he's made these kinds of decisions and angered a lot of fans for a lot of years. So just show face, say what's up, explain yourself, and it's not going to get fans on your good side, but it's at least going to be like, wow, he does exist. He's not dead.
Hmm.
He really is still alive.
Yeah, this isn't Weekend at Bernie's or anything. Like, he's still there.
Yes, exactly.
Like he's still present. He's still with us.
Yes.
But it's crazy. It's crazy how things flip. I'm curious to see how the Red Sox go from here. Maybe they
Yeah.
turn it around. I imagine just by sheer like organizational wealth and the overall stuff that they've accumulated over years that they will figure it out. But it's crazy. And the Padres are clearly saying we want to be one of those teams. And I think that you cannot underestimate players that talk to one another and they say, yeah, San Diego is all in, man. Like they're
Yeah.
down. Like they're down. You cannot underestimate that stuff. I don't think you can underestimate when it goes bad. I don't think you can underestimate the Red Sox. Maybe there's some whispers, and maybe it means you don't talk to the agent as much in negotiations. So then you miss out because they're like, oh, I don't want to do that. It's like Colorado, right? Where you trade Troy Tulowitzki without telling him, even though you always told him that you would tell him. I think these things start to total up. They start to add up.
Yes. 100%.
That being said, I'm not going to be totally mean, but let's just say the Red Sox getting worse isn't on my list of nightmare scenarios for the Earth. I think that is how I will put it and how I would like to end my portion of speaking on this podcast.
I mean, it's fair coming from someone who is not a Boston fan. That is fine. They've had a lot of success in a lot of sports over the years. I 100% understand why people are like, oh, poor Boston. Oh no,
Yeah, right.
no World Series in 4 years. Oh no. And I get it. I get it. I was like, okay. Like, now that the Patriots suck, I'm like, I get it. I finally get it. Like, now
Yeah,
I'm
right.
watching good teams. I'm like, oh no. But
I will say, sorry, I'm gonna cut
no,
you.
no, you're good. Go ahead.
I will say, in your defense, this type of bad is different. Patriots, you mess up with a draft pick. You're messing up with trades. This is like, oh, we're being cheap. And oh, we're changing our philosophy. I think that's very, very distinctly different than there's a difference between failing versus like not trying. That's where, unfortunately, the Red Sox are in the ladder.
Especially when you've had the talent over the years to, not be this kind of bad and this kind of cheap. But before we get out of here, putting you on the spot really quick, how many home runs and how many RBIs is Xander Bogaerts ending his first season with the Padres with?
I think he ends his season with 25 bombs. I think that I like what you brought up about the injury, and that maybe that's what hampered his power a little bit. I'm very curious to see if he can play second. I'm very curious to say if we talked very briefly about the more advanced analytics, and you want to go at defensive runs saved or outs above average. This is kind of only one of the first years where he's been in the positive in that area, coincidentally, before he becomes a free agent. I'm not saying that he wasn't trying, but he clearly had a great year there, right?
Yes.
Like, and it was a great time to have a great year. So can he be that good defensively? In some ways, it might not matter because he's such a good bat, but I think he's going to have a solid season, hit around 270, 280, hit 25 home runs. And for a Padres lineup that has kind of lacked that extra little consistent bat at times throughout this AJ Preller, Peter Seidler tenure, I think that will be huge. And I think that he's going to have a lot of fun. The question is going to be the years down the road, right? And hopefully he plays well there. Hopefully there's no weird chemistry issues with Tatis now losing his position. I personally do not think that is going to happen. I think Tatis has been extraordinarily humbled over the past year.
Yes.
I really do, based on everything I've read and from people that I talk to. It sounds like he's a kid that made mistakes, and he's been an idiot in a lot of ways. He's been a goober, as I like to call him. But I think he's going to learn, and I think what better than to bring in someone like Bogaerts and to have a guy like Kim who's very capable at playing defense. And then, if Kim's not playing there, then Xander Bogaerts, a champion, playing that position. I think Tatis is going to be more than happy with that. And I think it's going to be a great vibe for the team and continue the goodness that is the San Diego Padres.
I do hope so. I hope it. Take care of him. Don't take him for granted. And hopefully he wins a Gold Glove. He wanted to win a Gold Glove. He has not done that in his career, and he really had his sights set on that for 2022. So hopefully he wins that Gold Glove in San Diego, and it'd just make it hurt more for Red Sox fans. But Locked On Crossover, Locked On Red Sox, Locked On Padres. Subscribe to them both. YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Odyssey, wherever you get your podcast is where you can find me, you can find Javi, and you can find us bantering about baseball for better or for worse. More better for Locked On Padres, not for me, not for Locked On Red Sox, because
Believe me.
We were riding high on Wednesday. Great bullpen additions, and then boom, came crashing down. So for better for worse, we are here Monday through Friday. So is Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most, you go beyond the scoreboard, behind the scenes, with local experts and insights that only Locked On can provide. Also available on Odyssey, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. And until next time, we will see you soon. Hopefully your cough is better by then, by our next crossover.
Thank you. Stay safe. Stay faithful for our faithful Hobies. And Red Sox fans, I don't know, turn on the Boston Celtics for a little bit. They're really good. It kind of drives me insane.
Serotonin.
They whooped Phoenix's butts the other day. I'm like, oh god, they're winning the title. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're at
someone's
least
got to
getting
in
very
the
far.
city.
Yeah, they're like getting really far. So you could cling on to that for now. But otherwise, everybody, take care.